What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Happy Saturday to y'all. We are going to be covering one of our last brave weapons for y'all before we get into that final shape prep with some of my favorite builds that we will be taking in. I know we're getting Prismatic, which just came out with some extra views today. Oh, and it is looking so good, which actually brings us to our origin trait for the Falling Guillotine right here, which is the Indomitability perk. Final blows grant us grenade when we are using light subclasses, or melee when we are using our darkness subclasses. So with the prismatic subclass next season, this Indomitability trait is going to be disgusting. So it is very good on all of these brave weapons, and easily one of the best origin traits that Bungie has come out with in general. They definitely came out with it thinking about prismatic. Now, when we talk about the PvE side of things, this thing has some double damage perks that are kind of nutty when you pair them together with boss spec, of course. So we get that nice 8% damage against those mini bosses. So onslaught, anything that we are going into where we get up close and personal with those swords, we can absolutely juice the enemies. Now, this sword only comes with one masterwork, which is impact, so that's the only option y'all got. With blades for PvE, we got tempered as our first one. We get damage increase plus a little bit of ammo capacity, so this puts us into a certain category of the impact being at 65, which is a good little bit of amount, which is why I didn't choose jagged edge, because we only go up a little bit higher to like 67 in the impact, which really doesn't make that big of a difference compared to 65. The second option you could go with is honed edge. We don't have the same ammo capacity, but we get that +2 to impact, so we're at 66 on it. But like I said, I feel like between those numbers, nothing is really that difference between 65, 66, 67, so that is why I went with our first choice. Now, for me, this is your only choice for PvE with the heavy guard. Gives us the highest in guard resistance and guard endurance, so you're going to be able to tank the most amount of damage with that resistance, and the shield will last a little bit longer because of that endurance being at 60. So I think this is your only option that you should be gunning for inside of that guard for PvE. As for our third and fourth column, like I said, we have double damage perks in our third and fourth columns, which combined absolutely juice some of these bosses. So I'm going to give you the options right here. First off, with Frenzy, we get that nice 15% damage increase on the weapon after being in combat for 12 seconds, which is super easy to do in PvE. You're basically always having Frenzy proc, so this is a very good addition with just that base 15 across the board to all enemies. Doesn't have to be a certain type. Our second option we could go with is the Vorpal weapon. We're only getting 10% damage increase against those mini bosses and bosses, but that obviously stacks with our boss spec, so it's already getting higher at that nice 18%. Plus, with the damage perks in our fourth column, you'll see how they stack. If you guys are going for that straight add clear potential with the Void synergy, the chain reaction is the way to go. You get that nice big old explosion with the void damage on those defeats. So if you're looking for that add clear, like I said, go with chain reaction. Last but certainly not least, in this category, we got Relentless Strike. So our light attacks, when we land 3 of them, we're going to get a nice little bit of ammo back. So it is a good way to sustain damage while keeping your ammo up without wasting it. So this is a good option as well. But like I said, those stack and damage perks are hard to beat. So Frenzy would be my first choice, then probably Vorpal Weapon, with Relentless being my third for that damage aspect, and then Chain Reaction for that add clear. Now, onto our fourth column, we got a couple different options for damage, but I really think you got 2 that really go for it, with Surrounded being the first one here. Within 8 meters of 3 enemies, you're gonna get a 40% increase or 35% increase that swords get with the damage perk. So it is sometimes hard to get procced for sure because you're wiping out enemies as you're doing damage, but it is within 8 meters. So when you do get it procced on things like Crota, etc., you are able to get that 35% plus the 15 from something like Frenzy, all the way up to a 50% damage increase just because of our perks. The other option that I think you could go with for damage is bait and switch. We get 30% increase when we do that damage with our other weapons as well as this one within 7 seconds of each other. So it is a little bit less than surrounded, but it will be easier and more versatile to proc this. So definitely would be my second go-to for that damage. All of our other damage perks like Sword Logic as well as Desperate Measures rely on the weapon getting defeats beforehand, so not as viable. We do get a good little bit of damage increase, but I like bait and switch as well as surrounded way more. Last but certainly not least, chain reaction with this destabilizing rounds right here is pretty crazy. You're getting that volatility plus the void explosion from chain reaction, so add clear potential with that side of things is nutty. Very, very good weapon to have, especially with the double stacking damage perks. It is very, very juicy, especially when we got that void surge as well. It is just a masterpiece. So we're going to give this thing a 4.6 out of 5. So we might go to a 10 scale system here just to give us a little bit more variation, but I really, really do like this weapon. Now when we move on to PvP, we got the quick access sling on this thing, so we are whipping this thing in and out when we have it on, and we have that ammo. Like I said, for PvE, only one masterwork for y'all, so you gotta go with Impact, because that's all you got. Moving on to blades, I really think since we're in the Crucible, you pick this up, you're not gonna get that much ammo anyways, so I'm gonna go with Jagged Edge right here, giving us the most impact. We're already gonna get those defeats pretty easily, but if we gotta go against a super, that little +4 to impact will definitely help us. For our guard, definitely went with the burst guard. I think it's the best option because you're able to tank a lot of damage just right off the rip and then kind of jolt towards them, because we are going to be using Eager's Edge as our option. So I really think that having just that quick burst of being able to stop damage is better than having the longer endurance as well. Onto the third column, got two options. First off is that Vorpal like I was talking about, so we can get those defeats against players in their super. It is a 20% increase for the heavy weapons, so we are able to do a good little bit of damage against them. Second option is the old Frenzy right here. We gain that nice 15% increase in damage and 100 in handling for that 12 seconds. Reload obviously isn't going to matter since it's a heavy. We're not going to have that reload on the sword as well, but it is very easy to get procced as well, as long as you are in the fight, not being a little baby sitting in the back of the map, just taking little shots at people, stuff like that. So very, very good perk, but I think Vorpal is the overall best option. First option and best option is the Eager Edge for sure. In our fourth column right here, we get that insane movement with this, and you can just absolutely dap up some Guardians from some crazy distances and angles with this, especially when you have that with the Vorpal on. Anybody in their super is getting absolutely destroyed. Second option is the Sword Logic. If you aren't looking to fly around the map like a madman with Eager's Edge, go with Sword Logic, because on those player defeats, we're getting 2 stacks of the damage increase. So for PvP, we're getting a 20% increase at that 2 stacks, all the way up to 50% for 4 stacks. So it is a lot of damage being able to be pushed out with this sword at 2 and 4 stacks. So pretty easy to get as well with just getting 1 or 2 defeats with this. So it is a good little perk to have, not the craziest sword to have inside of the Crucible. I personally don't like swords, so I would probably give it about a 3-2, 3-3 inside of the Crucible, but the combination of Vorpal with Eager is pretty special, so definitely take that into consideration. But very, very good rolls on this Falling Guillotine. I know a lot of people are upset because the Slammer came out with some bang banger rolls and everybody was trying to farm that adaptive version, but we got this banger with the brave weapons and shacks and that onslaught grinding. So hopefully y'all are liking these builds. Hopefully y'all have liked Prismatic and everything Bungie's been putting out. New Crucible maps, Pantheon, it has been absolutely nuts. So I appreciate all you for supporting the channel. We got a lot coming out here, so please like and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a bunch. Slap that bell if you haven't as well, so you can get those notifications for these videos, as well as build guides and everything in that aspect. So again, appreciate all y'all. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.